Hey guys, welcome back to the Sensitivity Doctor. I'm so excited to share this conversation I had with Jessica Graham. I met them on a panel for our shared publisher and learned that they were someone with neurodiversity in all the forms: autism, ADHD, trauma. And not only that, they've been working very hard on learning about and applying unmasking. That's what this conversation is about. If you feel like you've been walking through your life masked, I absolutely positively hope that you settle in and enjoy this conversation, because you're going to learn what it is, how it can impact you, and what it's like to finally unmask and find your people. Not only that, you'll learn a little bit more about their books, their fabulous books. We've got Good Sex and Being Sick Enough. These books are awesome. They're raw, they're open, and I would definitely recommend you check them out. So I hope you enjoy the episode and you enjoy learning a little bit about what it would be like to unmask in your own life. Maybe that's cosmic that we're wearing basically the same color that I don't really feel like is a super duper popular color. Like most people are not like, I'm going to wear buttercreamy yellow.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. And I also love that like you're in like the femme version and I'm in the mask version.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. Oh, perfect. Well, what a nice beginning to our chat. It was really nice meeting you on that panel, by the way. Like that was really cool.
It was so nice meeting you. And I was I was really happy that afterwards you still invited me to be on your podcast.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Well, I've just been having trouble not speaking truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it doesn't help with book sales. I don't want to say I know. I don't think it helps with building a brand and continuing to like cultivate a brand, because it's controversial and not popular in certain areas. But I can't do it any differently.
Yeah, I get that. Well, and I feel like they were asking us honest questions too. Like we were, like I'm I'm glad. I don't feel like it was necessarily an echo chamber, like everyone was the same, but I at the very least felt like they kind of knew what they were in for. They were there at a diversity panel.
Yes, and I think that we exhibited that beautifully, Like we showed what that really is. I think it's like it's the strange shame that sometimes still comes up for me after public speaking or public panels, things like that. There's a kind of a shame that arises, and I work through it, and it's fine, but it actually was like a really nice feeling to then have connection with you, because I was like, okay, I couldn't have been awful if this wonderful person still wants to interact with me.
Well, no, I was super excited to sit down and talk with you. I feel like honestly, a lot of your true experiences are like such a mix of the different things that honestly I care about, and that also a lot of people that listen to this podcast can relate to. I mean, you've got highly sensitive people, people with autism, people who have ADHD, people who have experienced trauma, and you are like all of them.
Woohoo! I'm a winner.
Well, we could start there, but I guess it would be good for people to know who they're listening to. And I mean, we were talking about meeting on a panel for authors through Penguin. So, yeah, what led you to this space today?
So I wrote a book back that came out in 2017 called Good Sex, Getting Off Without Checking Out. And the reason that book was created was because I've always had a special interest. I didn't realize until I was diagnosed that it was like an autistic special interest in sex and sexuality, but also in spirituality, like since I was very young, super young. And so those are the things that interested me. And so when I was kind of invited / forced to write an article for my friend Michael Taft's blog, back years ago, that kind of started my putting my writing out publicly, because I'd never done that. And I'd been told since I was a kid, you're a writer, you're a writer. And so he said, you know, you got to do this and you got to write about your meditation experience. And so I started writing about it. And then it was a really natural thing to move into writing about sex and meditation. And there weren't a lot of people writing about that in a kind of down to earth, inclusive way. And so when a publisher decided they wanted a mindful sex book, they just Googled mindful sex and I popped up immediately because I was,
Oh, that's a cool thing to come up on Google for.
yeah. And I think I still do, but it's not, I'm not like, you know, it's not as much of me now because there's more people talking about it. So they asked me to write a book and gave me money. And so I wrote the book. Like, literally, that would have never happened. I need invitation and I need accountability and I need like a certain amount of pressure in order to get those kinds of things done.
I'm so super relating to you right now because I have like 20 unfinished books that will never see the light of day. And the books that I do have out in the world, like both Gaslighting and the Powered by ADHD books, I think similar to you, they just Googled like gaslighting or something and they found like a Teen Vogue article I had been quoted in. And they're like, here's a book. Will you do this in this short amount of time? I'm like, yes, sir. but
Did
but
you?
if I don't have the pressure, then it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't come out of me.
Yeah, no, it's that's exactly right. And I used to really judge myself for that, you know, and I don't anymore. I used to judge myself for having, needing somebody to come over in order for me to straighten up my kitchen. Do you know what I mean? And now it's just like, in fact, I was with a client earlier today, someone who is autistic and ADHD and is dealing with, is in a part of the world where there's a lot of traumatic things occurring. Well, that's everywhere, I guess. And was talking about like the shame of their messy space. And I was just like, you know what? I'd like to show you something. I was like, look at my kitchen. I was like, I had a cleaner come. I just got back from a trip and I had a cleaner come while I was gone. It's only been a few days and already this kitchen looks like this, and I'll clean it up today because I have someone coming here tomorrow. And I love myself. Right? Like,
And you can still do both. You can still have a messy kitchen and love yourself.
both exist. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So in any case, having that the pressure, the accountability, and the positive reflection and celebration of me as a writer, that also helped, got me to write that first book. And then
Yeah.
it took me, a book came out in 2017, and I had multiple colleagues who had their first book come out then and are now like having their third book come out. But I got very, very, very sick. And I was already sick. And it just got worse. And I needed to get out of a long term narcissistically, sociopathically abusive relationship. I'm not putting
Wow.
that label on that person because that's not my job to do in this moment, but I will just say what I experienced very
Yeah.
much looked like those cycles of abuse.
Right.
And I needed to exit that and I needed to do some really targeted healing on that and get well, physically well enough to feel ready to even consider writing another book. And then when I was ready, I reached out to my publisher. I'm like, here's what I want to write. And they ended up saying, well, great. Yes, write that. And then they changed it to let's make it essays and poems. And then I was like, holy moly, is this real? Like, pinch me, because like that is so much closer to the kind of work I want to be doing.
Isn't that the
I'm,
best? I love
oh my
that.
God, it is such the best. So I just saw some numbers the other day. I wasn't thrilled about the sales, but it came out during the LA fires. And also I've been very sick. I was just in the
Still.
hot. Oh, I got really sick in July. I was doing very well, hence being able to write the book, but then
Yeah.
got really sick in July, and I've been sick since then. And I've been in the hospital a couple times, most recently for like I think it was 3 nights.
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear
I was
that.
yeah, I mean, it's part of the deal,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but I was just on the East Coast for a variety of reasons. And I couldn't come home. I couldn't fly back to LA because I was just too sick. I had to just stay in
Yeah.
bed for like 4 days, I think. And so, because of that, I haven't been able to do all the things that you need to do to sell your book. So,
So
it's
here you
just gonna,
are.
yeah, here I am, and it's gonna be in my own way. It's gonna,
Yeah.
it's gonna suddenly sell very well
Well, the
at some
name of your
point.
new one is
Being Sick Enough:
Being
Thoughts on
Sick Enough.
Invisible Illness, Childhood Trauma, and Living Well When Surviving is Hard. And sick is in parentheses, so being sick enough, being enough, being sick, sick enough.
So that's definitely, I want to for sure touch on the sick piece with you because I am interested in that. One, because I just want to know your experience. And two, because I mean, I will tell you as a therapist, I see so much of that that aligns with a traumatized body for sure. But there's another piece of this, and it's the culmination of sensitive nervous system, ADHD, autism, sometimes called AuDHD, correct? So, not everyone has heard that term or knows what in the world it is or what it's like to live in this kind of vein. So, would you be able to shed some light on that?
Sure. And I want to start with the caveat that, like, my autism diagnosis is only a couple years old. So I'm kind of a baby.
There's so much to
I
learn when it comes to autism. It's endless.
So much to learn and so much to unlearn,
Good point.
right? Like, I had no idea how masked I was. I had no idea. Like, I've gone through so many layers of becoming more authentic and more vulnerable and more free and more awakened and more healed. And I didn't know that so much of the time that I interact with another human being in any setting was masked.
What do
And
you
I
mean by
did.
masked, by the way?
So for me, special interests from a young age were sex, psychology, spirituality, and film. That shaped me into someone who could pass in a lot of ways as quirky, strange, peculiar, but neurotypical, because
Gotcha.
I learned a lot about people and relationships, because relationships were part of the special interest, and I learned about being a person watching all these films. Like, I started watching like really adult
Yeah, that
films at
makes
a very
sense.
young age. So like when I would do like when I first started wondering and I would do like assessments, and they would always come up that I was autistic, but there would be like a question around like, do you watch films and then use them as a way to interact with others? And I'd be like, no, I don't do that. Or like, do you sort of like copy quotes and things from films? I'm like, I don't do that. And then I realized I do it so deeply that
Right.
that I didn't even know I was doing it.
I
And
get that.
so, right? And so there's been like just me as a person in any given interaction with another person or group of people, there were these layers of performance. I'm also an actor, and I'm a good actor.
Man, you just really hit the nail with all these special interests.
I really did.
I sometimes joke that the things I hyper focus on are profitable and I'm lucky. Like
Right?
writing and therapy and like, it's not like I'm super into puzzles. You know, I actually
Yeah.
hate them. They stress me out, to be honest. But
See, I love them. There's two kinds of us. There's the ones that love the puzzles and the ones that hate the puzzles. And
yeah.
the ones that hate them like hate them, and the ones that love
I
them
don't
like
I
me
don't hate
love
them,
them.
but I'll do it and then I'm like kind of more so just watching the other person do it.
Yep. And I'd be there like doing it literally until I was in a flare up of pain because I can't
Oh.
stop doing it. Like I've done that way too many times. Yeah. So I mean that masking, it's deep and it goes in so many layers. And what I didn't realize is like when I was around a person and I just felt so good and I felt good during and I felt good after and I didn't feel drained, it was because I wasn't masking. And it was generally, well, I think always because they were also neurodivergent. And I didn't realize that. I just thought, oh, this person, I just like this person a lot. And oh,
Oh my gosh,
these
that makes
people.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like I would be like hanging out with people who were neurotypical, who like wanted to be friends with me and were maybe like really cool or successful or whatever it was. And I'd be like, and really kind. And I would just feel awful. And I'd be like, I would feel like shame and I would feel discomfort. And it was because I was masking so much. I was
I
like,
really do relate to you in that. Because I've had a time where we actually played a game once. This is so like I remember sitting with my daughter. She's 9. She hears us talk about things like HSPs and autism and ADHD all the time because of my work. And we played the "What does our friend have?" game. We were going through, and I'm like, okay, Aunt so and so, or this person, what do you think they was like? Oh, almost everyone I like to surround myself with is a little neurospicy. So I relate to what you're saying.
yeah, it's really
Hmm.
cool when you start to realize that. And like, I looked
Hmm.
back and I was like, what was like, I realized recently the best romantic relationship I ever had was
Hmm.
as a teenager. And I wasn't a normal teenager. I was on my own at pretty much at 14. And so my teenage relationships were fairly adult, honestly.
Hmm.
And one of these relationships I had as a teenager was like, I realized, wow, that was like one of the best relationships actually of my life. And at first I was like, oh, that's really sad. Like, what, like, what have I been doing? But then I
Or
realized,
did I
oh,
peak already?
yeah, like what happened? But then I
Mhm.
realized, that person is neurodivergent.
Mm.
That person is autistic. And now we
Mhm.
still are in touch and we're still close. And now it's obvious that
Mhm.
they're autistic. And of course I felt comfortable and safe and good. And I recently, for maybe about kind of on and off for like a year, dated someone who is autistic. And I had a similar feeling. It didn't work out for other reasons, but it was like just this like,
Mhm. Like you could finally exhale.
yeah, just this relaxation, this
Right.
ease, this like not having to explain myself, this not having to, you know. And so now it's just needing to focus on only dating women or non-binary people because then it's really going to be a big relief.
Mhm. And I'm curious when you think, you said you have a almost like a baby diagnosis. It's been a couple years. You're understanding now, okay, this is why I was so exhausted and probably sick too. Like masking
It'll
can make us sick, right? Impact our nervous system, our immune system in a really negative way. Um, have you been able to figure out a way to unmask even in situations where maybe previously you would have masked a lot, or are you more so I just need to surround myself with just neurodiverse people?
No, both.
Both. Okay.
When I was like, I think I was maybe not even halfway through the 6 week diagnosis process or assessment process, and I had friends over. And I've always like, ever since I was young, like liked having people over, liked having gatherings because I had a job and it was being the host. And I had something to focus on and a role to play.
Right.
So the masking was very easy because I knew what I was doing. Same reason why I like a game night. We're doing something, right?
Right.
So I always liked having people over, but I would feel very drained and exhausted afterwards. And so I was about like, whatever it was, like maybe a quarter of a way through this process of assessment. And I was starting to learn more, and I was like, huh. So I was having friends over for a game night. And I just made this agreement with myself that I wasn't going to mask. And I didn't even really know what that meant. I was just like, I'm just not going to. And I didn't. I was loud or quiet or silly or blunt or whatever it was. Like I was just
Whatever came up.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let my body do what my body wanted to do. Let it move how I wanted to move. And at the end of that night, I was like, I don't feel bad. Like I don't feel drained. I feel good. And so that was a sort of a beginning of, okay, I can do this. And it's uncomfortable at times. I mean, like the panel we met on, I was very unmasked.
I was so tired after that. Like I
Were
could do
you?
9 hours of therapy and I feel fine because I'm completely unmasked with my clients. They know me. I work with them. I'm all the things you're saying. I had such a good time and I felt like I could nap for like 10 hours after that. I don't know why. And it was, I think, because I just knew all these people were hinging on, like they were on the edge of their seat listening to what we were saying. Something about it. I was like, that was a lot.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I mentioned, like I did have some, I don't know if shame is exactly the right word, but I definitely had some, whoa, I was
Yeah.
really unmasked. Like
Yeah.
they had to wrap me up. Like I don't like that's not something I would go out of my way to make sure. Okay, here's a good story. I'm sober, right? I don't drink. I just had 18 years of sobriety from
Congrats.
alcohol.
I know you're saying you're an
Okay.
adult. Like
Yeah,
your sobriety has reached adulthood.
exactly.
You're an adult and a baby at the same time.
Yes, exactly. So there was this, gathering of other people who don't drink that I would go to, and at like the anniversary, I think it was maybe my first anniversary, maybe my second, I don't know. That was my first. I was going to go to this big gathering, and they would give you 1 minute on your anniversary to share, like to say, this is how I did it, right? I practiced, rehearsed, wrote out, and timed
Wow.
that thing so that it was exactly a minute, so that that timer would not go off
Yeah.
before I was done talking, and I wouldn't A, get cut off, or B, be one of those people that keeps talking after the timer.
Like they don't have to play the orchestra music to usher you off like you're at the Oscars.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
was like, nobody is going to see me as, nobody's going to be like, oh, that annoying person, or that person who's not aware of time, or whatever it is. And so with the panel we did, I wanted to finish a thought, and I knew that we were supposed to wrap up, and I felt the energy, and I knew they were like, okay, this person's not stopping. And I knew I was going to. I knew I wasn't going to go on for. I knew I had like
Right.
30 or 30 seconds and
Right.
to finish this thing, so I was going to do it. And I never would have done that in the past. I never would have put
Oh,
myself
I
in a
love that you
position.
did that. 'Cause I remember the end of it being like, I loved what you said. And I remember, I forgot who was kind of wrapping it up for us because it wasn't the actual facilitator. Do you remember her name?
I can't remember her name, but yeah,
Yeah,
she.
and she also had that, like, you could see her on the edge of her seat, kind of like waiting to wrap us up, and you got your point through, and I loved that. It's so interesting you're pointing that out now. I didn't even, and I think that's something that's so meaningful with unmasking is that we all don't have any idea when someone is unmasking and how big of a thing that can be sometimes unless we're having these conversations and finding out that like that was your experience in that moment.
Yeah, it was. And I had to negotiate with myself in that moment to be like, no, I am committed to being myself. And it's okay if there's a person that's bothered by it. It's okay if not everybody likes me. Now, I care about my impact. Like, I I
Right.
do. And I when I was younger, I was masked and unmasked. I would hurt people's feelings a lot. Or I would just kind of I would say things that were inappropriate a lot because I didn't, and it wasn't because I was a bad person. I mean, it wasn't because I was like doing a bad thing. It was just I wasn't picking up certain cues. And I learned through being shamed and judged that wasn't okay. So as I've been unmasking, I've been like, okay, but what pieces of this are actually really important to keep? Some of the masking isn't masking, it's being aware of the other human beings around you, or it is being,
Right.
conscientious, mindful. And so it's like, it's that process of like being radically authentic and also at the same time being aware and caring about my impact on others.
I like how you pointed that out because that's actually something I explored in the Powered by ADHD book, where
Mm.
I talked about what masking was. I talked about some of the implications of what it can do to your health. But then I was giving examples of, like, for example, trying to be uber early is kind of technically a form of masking for someone with ADHD. But if being uber early reduces your stress and makes it more likely you're not going to lose your job, it might be a form of masking that's actually working for you.
Yeah.
But to your point, if the masking is like, I just, for example, just cross my legs. Like, I really like sitting in kind of like odd positions. I'm not like a feet on the floor type of person. And for me, that's deeply uncomfortable. Like, it makes my back hurt. It makes me feel like just not connected to the person. So if your masking is making you like not connected to yourself, if it's hurting you, then it's certainly not, I don't know, in my opinion, like a beneficial mask to wear, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
So can I ask you, because you brought up a couple things like the saying things that may not potentially hurt someone, or like hurt someone's feelings, when you were younger, or you mentioned your kitchen, or you mentioned this or that. How, as someone with both autism and ADHD, what is that experience like for you with, do you feel like you need to piece out, okay, this is probably attributed to this, or this is attributed to that? Or does it feel like just one melting pot to you? I'm just curious, like, for you, what that experience is like.
Yeah. You know, when I got the diagnosis, one of the really helpful things was the woman, Dr. Crystal Lee, uh, broke down for me what was autism, what was ADHD, and what was complex trauma, which I'm
Oh,
trying to say complex post-traumatic stress condition. I'm trying to get rid of the disorder in my
right.
language, but it's hard. So anyway,
CPC. I'm thinking of the
so, yeah, it's
acronym
hard.
now.
CPTSC. She broke it down for me, and I wish I had it recorded or I'd written it down, but I've since looked it up so that I can speak to it when I've needed to.
Yeah.
I
I'd
didn't
love to
look it up,
hear like what it's like for you. It
no.
doesn't even have to be a technical disclaimer. This is not a technical grid. This is Jessica's experience.
Yeah, I made a TikTok and about this, and so before I did it, I was like, all right, I'm going to research this and refresh my mind about what I'm saying. So okay, so the trauma, the autism, the ADHD, right? They all overlap in a variety of ways. For many years, once I understood that I was dealing with a complex and chronic experience of embodied emergency response, of trauma, I chalked everything up to that. All of my symptoms of ADHD, all of the aspects of being an autistic person, I chalked up to that. And so what that did is like, okay, I just have to master this.
Like it has to
And
be
what,
fixed or something.
yes.
Yeah.
And I need to heal my nervous system, heal my brain, and then all of this will change. A lot of things changed. A lot of things changed. Like, it's incredible what can happen when you do targeted, specific trauma resolution. Not talk
Agreed.
therapy, not, you know what I mean? It's like, it is
You work with the body.
specific. You work
Yeah.
with the body and you work with the brain, you
Yes.
work with the nervous system, and in a holistic way, right? So I dedicated myself to that, and it changed my nervous system, it changed my brain, it changed my life. And then
Awesome.
because I was so passionate about it, I started the process of becoming a practitioner and being certified and doing trainings, and I'm very good at it. Like it's something that I never planned to do. I didn't want to do. People told me I should be a therapist from the time I was a kid. I was like, absolutely not. But it is what I'm doing, and it is what the world has sort of asked of me. So it's what I'm doing at this point, and I'm really good at it, and I love it.
Awesome.
But there came a point where I was like, I have done all this, and I still feel like something's wrong with me. Is this just like the human condition? We all just feel that something's wrong with us. Is this just like a deep spiritual thing? I need to continue my deep spiritual work. Do I need to go back into the pre-birth trauma or the pre-verbal trauma? Like what part of this trauma do I need to revisit in a new way? Blah blah blah. Getting the ADHD diagnosis and understanding the specifics of the clutter, the piles, the running late thing. That is every single day is a thing. Every
Right.
single day is a thing that I have to contend with. The lack of focus or the hyper focus, and we start to spill into autism when it's like, I'm interested in this, so I'm going to do this. I'm not interested in that, so I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Like that starts, yes, there's the hyper focus of ADHD, but there's also the special interest of autism and the maybe black and white or extreme kind of like, no, yes. So that's where we start to spill a bit into that. But when I understood, because I got the ADHD diagnosis first, and it was a surprise to me. When I got that,
May I
there was
ask how old you were when you were diagnosed with ADHD?
I was 41.
Oh, okay.
41. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is, not uncommon to be diagnosed late. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like really grateful for the psychiatric nurse practitioner who thought to even look at it. Because I decided I needed some psychiatric help because I was like, I'm tired all the time. I always feel behind. There's a total lack of motivation. The things that used to be easy aren't easy anymore. I can't pull my bootstraps up. And I've done all this trauma work, and I'm not having trauma responses. I'm not having these flare-ups of the complex PTSD. I'm not shaking and shutting down and all, like that's not happening. I'm not losing time. So what's up? Why do I feel this way? I don't think I'm depressed, but something. So I
Yeah.
decided to get psychiatric help, and that's ultimately how we found the ADHD diagnosis, which of course can cause anxiety and depression and all these things.
Right.
So
Well, and it sounds like you did it in honestly the exact route that I would go with, because I'm a trauma therapist. I've been doing that for years, and so many people come in with the laundry list of diagnoses, maybe from other therapists or just all these things that they're saying is wrong. And I do say to them, there may be all these things, but we have to target the trauma first. We have to, because otherwise it's like trying to see inside muddy water. Like you need to clear that out so that what's left is the other things to work on. And I also like thinking about the fact that, you were looking at, and I can see why, like when we've endured trauma, we want to heal, right? So we work to heal. But you don't heal ADHD. ADHD is a dynamic, kick-ass brain. It really is, when given the right environment. And so it's not learning to heal ADHD, to your point, where you were saying having to contend with it. Have you ever heard of Russell Barkley? He's like one of the most prolific researchers in ADHD. And
Did he write a book?
oh my God, like so many of them. He's very academic.
Okay.
He very academia. Check him out. I'm sure I think he's retired now. He just does talks. But he had this one talk about helping children cope in like schools. And he gave the best analogy I've ever heard. I love it so much. I've used it all the time. And he talks about how if we expect people with ADHD to use enough coping mechanisms, I might have even said this on the panel now that I'm thinking about it, but enough coping mechanisms where if you do the thing enough times, you're not going to need the ramp anymore. Kind of like if you're in a wheelchair and you're going up the ramp enough times, suddenly you're no longer going to need the ramp.
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to ADHD, you're not going to suddenly use a calendar or whatever app you need to remind you of things just enough times that you'll never need it again.
Yep.
It's not something to heal, but it is something to identify and then figure out how to still like kick ass in your life with it. So okay, so you now have this diagnosis and this diagnosis. The autism piece. There is one thing that stands out to me when it comes to ADHD and autism. I'm curious your thoughts on it. Where you were saying watching films to like kind of get a temperature of, social cues or just the norms, even if you didn't realize that's what you were doing. People with ADHD, when they get out of their own way, exclusively ADHD, so not AuDHD, but exclusively ADHD, actually tend to have the ability to like emotionally mimic or mirror others quite easily. It's actually a superpower of the straight ADHD brain. I'm not saying that the impulsivity and hyperactivity doesn't interfere with them excelling at it sometimes. Whereas with autism, that's generally not necessarily a superpower, even though we now know people with autism have just as much empathy, if not sometimes empathy overload. So do you feel any kind of experience or dichotomy in that area? Like, do you notice a difference in that? And I know I'm truly asking you to pull this apart with a fine-tooth comb because so many people who, because it is so comorbid, have these experiences, have such a hard time describing what it's like. Because it is hard to describe.
I want to bring trauma in as well, though.
Please.
Because
go for it.
We can't really look at this without that too. Because
you are so correct.
Right? Because the mirroring or the chameleon or the people pleasing or whatever it is, that on a flip side can be it makes us great at our jobs. Right? Because we can be with people and we can hold a space and we can see them and we can reflect and we can like meet them.
Right.
But on the flip side, if you grew up in a traumatic environment, you had to do that. You had to highly attune.
Survive, yeah.
Right? What's going to happen if they have this look in their eye? What's going to happen if they close the door this way versus that way? With my dad, he's an alcoholic, very loving, but an alcoholic, and I, at a very early age, understood the different types of drunk. I knew when he had gone from drinking a beer to feeling it because I saw his eyes. His eyes would change. And I knew when he went from functionally feeling good, buzzed, to
Yeah.
drunk based on his eyes.
Wow.
And then again to the point where all bets were off and he was going to go into some kind of blackout. I knew
Right.
what his eyes. That was predictable because I could learn it and it was a pattern. With other adults in my life, including my mom, it was not predictable. And so I needed to get really good at like, okay, what's happening here? What's happening there? And, same thing out in the world, being in like adult environments with grown men and things like that at a very young age, needing to stay safe, and somehow miraculously mostly did. So with the trauma piece, there's that side of it, and then there's the flip side. It's where all of that, there's the post-traumatic growth. It makes us again really good at our jobs and
Right.
able to connect with humanity in a really beautiful way, right? Which is part of why I care so much about things going on in the world and why I put so much emphasis on it, and basically will give up everything to speak out about it, honestly. So there's that piece, and then there's the with the ADHD and this sort of mirroring that you're talking, this kind of superpower mirroring that you're talking about. It's a really nice shift into that from feeling so disconnected from people, right? Because when we're in the unaddressed, unembraced, unloved ADHD mind,
Right.
there's a sense of aloneness and disconnection, and I nobody understands how I feel. I am behind. I'm so behind. I'm so behind. I'm never going to get where I need to be. They're all there and I'm here, right? And so when that switch starts to happen where you can actually see other people, see yourself in them, see them in you, there starts to be this like really beautiful opportunity for connection, which is, ultimately what we all need. And then autism, yes, deeply, for me personally, deeply empathetic if I'm focused on that.
Oh, okay.
So with clients, the number one thing people say is they feel safe and seen. I zoom, I'm like here, I'm with you, right? I have to work a lot harder. I don't want to say work harder. I have to be more aware when I'm not in that role and out in the world, how I show up with other humans, because
Yeah.
I'm not, unless I'm consciously choosing to do it, I am not putting myself in their shoes.
I can understand that. I mean, that makes sense. I appreciate that distinction because I think that might be one of the differences maybe with like high sensitivity, for example, where like you have to make a conscious effort not to do it. Like you have to purposefully set up barriers and boundaries not to absorb because your natural tendency is to absorb. And what you were saying before made me think of, I had my shaman Bloom Post was on here before. She's amazing. You should listen to her episode. You might like it
I
actually.
will.
And she was talking about how highly sensitive people, as a form of neurodiversity as well, are born, like genetically born. But empaths are created. And her point was around emotional vampires, abusers, narcissists, things like that.
Yep.
I think that just totally encapsulates what you were saying.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'll also say that to what you were speaking of the highly sensitive and it all coming in. Because one of my major masking strategies was to help people. I was like the kid in Sex Education on Netflix. I didn't go to school. I didn't go to school, but I was
You had a
around.
stall set up in a danky building where you're giving advice.
Pretty much. It was wherever, maybe the basement apartment I was living in or the alley I was hanging out in, but whatever. It was like, people came to me. I don't know, 15, 16. People were coming, even younger, but 15, 16, people were coming to me. I think I'm pregnant. And then I remember the boyfriend being like, if I punch her really hard, would that work?
Oh
and
my
I'm
gosh.
Like, and they're in like, this isn't like an abuse thing. It's like a plan. I'm like,
Right.
No, that will not work. Like,
let's not do that. Yeah.
Here's what we're
For
going to do.
For a variety of reasons.
I will take you to Planned Parenthood. I will come with you. We will sit there. They will let us know what state you have to go to not get your parents' permission. Like, I walked them through the whole thing. Wow. Same thing, somebody coming to me, again, 15, I'm 15, 16. I really want to give my boyfriend a blowjob, and I don't know how. Can you teach me? I remember sitting in the parking lot of a movie theater after a movie, and I was like, yeah, sure, let me explain it to you. I didn't have a prop or anything. I just like kind of explained it and tried to mime it.
And there began your writing of your first book.
Yeah. So there was the sex piece, but then there was also the like, if I'm masked, I don't want to say masked, because I'm not masking with my clients. I'm very much myself because I can't do it any other way.
I fully feel that because I would have stopped a long time ago if I had to be masked with my clients. And I will say, if I have a client, it hasn't happened often because I usually work with neurodiverse clients. But sometimes there'll be one where you don't match with and you feel like you have to do more masking, and those are usually the relationships that don't last as long.
Yeah, I just don't even I won't take those clients on, I can often even tell like I have an application form to get in a Zoom room with me for an intro. I do like a full intro session, not like a sales call, because it just helps me to know and for them to know.
Feel it out.
Yeah, and I'm asking them to commit to like a chunk of time. So, but I can often tell in the intake form, the application form before I even meet them. I'll still generally do the session, but I'm 9 out of 10 times right that like it's not a match, and I can't. It's too exhausting. It's too exhausting. So I just can't do it. And you're right. When I have, the relationship doesn't last. But it is a role, right? So while I'm not masking, I am in a role. There are things I'm not going to bring in to that role.
Right.
I'm very relational in my work with my clients. It's a big part of how I do it. But I'm not going to sit there and talk to them about some unprocessed thing I have. You know what I mean? I'm not going to eat a chicken dinner while I'm, what I'm saying? Like
maybe a smoothie, but
yeah, maybe a smoothie if it's in like sometimes if it's in like a cup that's not clear so that they don't quite know what I'm drinking. That's how I do the smoothie thing. So it's a role, and that creates a sense of comfort for me as
then you know what to expect.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So that role that I only do with my clients now, I used to do with pretty much everyone.
Wow.
Unless I got burnt out and suddenly I was completely unmasked and unkind. And they're like, what the hell happened to the person that I thought you were? Why are you so cold? Why are you so distant? Why are you so short? To me, I didn't know I was doing those things. I just lost the ability to continue to like play the role at a certain point. And so that's also why long-term friendships tended to be really challenging for me, because at a certain point I couldn't do it anymore.
That makes sense. And when you said once you wear the mask long enough, eventually, I mean, no one can stay masked all the time. It's so exhausting on your nervous system. And I do think most people tend to either shut down or lash out. And it doesn't have to look violent. Like a lashing out could literally just be you're short tempered or
Yeah,
something like
you
that.
just make a comment that's not. I mean, it actually happened to me not that long ago. And it was a friendship that, like, I knew was like, I care very much about this person, but I knew it was uneven. I knew that, like, I was still kind of doing the thing, not doing it anywhere else, but still wanting to do it right here with this one person. And eventually I did end up saying something that wasn't like a horrible thing I said, but it certainly wasn't in alignment with who I'd been throughout the friendship. And it wasn't, if I had paused and breathed, I would have said it differently. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's that thing. And, I made amends. And then I had a really honest conversation about what was going on. I said, this is what's going on.
So I mean, that's really one of the things that I'm hoping people are taking from this is that the masks, they exist for a reason in certain spaces and places, but when you wear it for too long, it becomes heavy. It can hurt your nervous system. It can hurt your body. It can make you sick, to your point.
And it can hurt other people.
And it can hurt other people. And really, I mean, unmasking to someone and telling them what's really going on, it can feel scary because we don't know how they're going to respond. But what a blessing to know how the person will respond. Like if they respond in a way that is open and supportive and affirms your relationship, well hell, you just made a really good progress there with someone. But if not, then you have that information.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the circles of support?
Yeah, a really great therapist I recently worked with for about a year and a half sent me that to give my sister with her kids.
Yeah.
And for me and my sister to just, I'm not super familiar. I kind of like looked at it and put it aside.
Right.
So please tell me.
Well, it makes me think a little bit about what you're talking about today. I mean, the first circle, and this was a model created in the early 80s by these two wonderful women who were trying to advocate for individuals with disabilities. It has been extended now to, people with neurodiversity, trauma, just really anyone, and mainly adults. This kind of model works better with adults. And so the like inner circle is people that you love, that you will share everything with, you feel completely comfortable with. The next circle, and that's the circle of intimacy. The next circle is actually the circle of friendship. I found that interesting that it wasn't the same. Mm-hmm. So the circle of friendship are going to be people that you have game nights with or host a party or go to birthday parties. Or they know you enjoy life together. Circle 3 is a circle of participation. Mm-hmm. So these are folks that you do things with. I sometimes say like my coworkers are a circle of participation, or if you are part of a book club or something like that. Now, these circles can overlap and form and move into the deeper circles. And then the fourth one is the circle of exchange. Mm. And these are relationships where you are usually giving monetary exchange for a service. So this could be your therapist, your barista, your acupuncturist, but they're going to be people that could still mean a lot to you. Your clients would be in the circle of exchange with you for mm-hmm. their circles. Mm-hmm. The one really amazing and like remarkable thing was that they've noticed that people who had neurodiversity or trauma or certain disabilities tended to have the most people in circles 1 and 4.
People you love and people that you exchange with?
Yes.
Yep. Bingo.
Yes. Because circles 2 and 3, they take consistency. It's a lot of effort. You are feeling very seen right now. I'm seeing this.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to cry or laugh or like vomit. I don't know.
The goal and the hope is to have, some evenness of a spread mm-hmm. because mm-hmm. if we put too much pressure on circle one, if they do something that hurts us, it can feel catastrophic because circle one has so much intensity and meaning. Circle two is wonderful, but it takes a lot of consistent effort. Circle three demands you get out there and do the things and follow up with the meetup groups or whatever it is. And then, circle four makes a lot of sense because if you are someone who is, in need of people to support or help or services, or you are of service, you're going to have more in that area. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's thank you for laying that all out.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been for years of my life, I would find myself in 4 and 1 and be like, well, I did a lot of 3. I did a lot of 3. A lot. Until I burned out completely. But I mean, I was creating communities left and right. I was part of communities. I was blah, 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 blah. Like I was very much in there, very masked though. So, circle 2 has always been the most challenging for me. But I would hit these points where I'd be like, I'm lonely. I need friends. And then I would work really hard to do circle 2. But because I was masking, at a certain point I would burn out. So either it would be something where like they did or said something that I was like, oh, screw that, cut and run, or I did something and then we couldn't work it out, or I just fizzled out because I just didn't have, mainly that. And when the chronic illness piece comes in, I mean, don't get me started. That's a whole other.
I know. I feel like I need to have you back for a part 2 on chronic illness and sickness because we literally didn't even touch on it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of nice because I've been like nothing but dealing with, I'm getting diagnosed with like another thing right now. And it's just like,
oh my goodness.
So it's actually kind of nice.
Good.
But yeah,
no, we can compartmentalize all you need.
Totally. But yeah, I want to say that like in the last 4 years, I've spread it out. I mean, part of what was really impactful for what you just shared is I was like, oh yeah, like that's what I've been working on and I've done it. Like all of these circles are getting attention and I understand them and I'm not masking in them. So thank you for giving me that beautiful moment of, oh, wow, okay, good.
Awesome. No, I love that because that really is what it's all about. If you are connecting with your authentic self and you're not having to carry those heavy masks everywhere, all those circles become easier to live in. And I mean, the hopeful thing is that if someone wants more 2s or wants a couple 1s, time will get us there. I mean, I joke that a little kid, I mean, someone on the playground, you go down a slide together and you're in circle 1. You're like, instantly you're in circle 1. But with adults, it takes time. And so, just mirror exposure to someone and having repeated positive, and especially I would imagine after trauma too, when you're looking at the world through cautious gaze, that knowing that I've spent some time in this circle with someone and, I think I'm ready to transition to the next level with them. What if we started doing that? I'm just letting you know you're moving to circle 2 this week.
I actually literally did a version of that just recently. This friend of mine who we just adore each other, and they came into my life at a time when they were just starting their kind of like journey into spirituality and to self-discovery. And because I've been teaching meditation since, 2008. So I was able to point them in a lot of directions. I was able to help them get a specific therapist because I have, lots of referrals because, and then, so I watched them, and we also had in common our creative work. And so I watched them grow and change, but I didn't step into circle 4 ever. I was always very careful not to do that. And ultimately came to understand that this person is autistic. That's why this connection was working.
Right.
And now we have totally landed in one. And we had a conversation about it, not using that language. But the other day they were over here and they're like, this is like a real, deep, loving friendship. And I was like, yeah, it is.
Oh,
We
that's
love
so
each
cool.
other. It was just like, and we named
Oh,
it, and we kind of like, yeah, it
yeah.
was real. It
Well,
was
now
really
you
cool.
can like give it a stamp on top of the name.
Circle one.
Well, Jessica, I have like just thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I had a feeling, I had this little plan, like we're gonna do these questions and have these chats. And then the second I saw you and we had the same color on, I just thought, let's see how it flows. And I'm so glad we did, because I really do believe that someone listening who is, whether it be they have trauma, autism, high sensitivity, ADHD, or they're just socialized by culture,
This world.
to explore that unmasking is something that is so real. It's something that is so like felt in your body, and when you can work on unmasking, it's really beautiful. So thank you. Like honestly, thank you so much. I'm so glad we got to chat, and we have to stay connected. I want to hear about your move once you do it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's take. We'll plan a time. We'll have a circle 2 conversation.
Ooh, yeah, let's move to circle 2. I like it. We'll move from circle 3 to circle 2. Love it.
Thank you so much for having me. I also
For
deeply
sure.
enjoyed this.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I hope everyone enjoyed. Be well, everyone.